Having a good conversation here during the commercial break, but we're going to move on to what's going on in Nashville with several bills to talk about. We're never going to get to all of them because that's just the way they work up there. But they are hoping to wind things up by April 24th is their target date, so there's a lot to get done. One thing they've made significant progress on is a bill that will hold parents accountable if their child commits a crime. A $1,000 fine, and if the parent can't afford the $1,000 fine, then they have to commit community service. They have to be able to perform community service. So we think this is a good idea, all of us, because Senator London Lamar is on board. Most Republicans are on board. They think this one's going to pass because it has bipartisan support. Not that they need it in Nashville, but they've got it. Otis, you first.
Oh, absolutely. I think just what I said in the first segment. We have to start holding parents accountable for some of these crimes. And I'm not convinced that a $1,000 fine is enough in some cases. I think you have to base it on the level of the crime that was committed. If we're talking about a heinous crime here and we have a wayward kid that's out there doing this, I think we need to hold the parents responsible in some kind of way. You know, again, I mentioned the one in Michigan. They were charged with manslaughter. And went to prison for it. So I think if you hold that over some parents' head here who are not doing any parenting at all, I think that some of them will finally get the message.
Do we do this for parents of kids who are chronically truant when it comes to not going to school?
I think so. Susan, what do you say?
Well, if a child is chronically truant, I mean, it seems to me that the school, then you get the school to step in and discuss it with the parents, like the school tried in Michigan, tried to talk to the parents who are now sitting in jail, and they didn't pay attention to the school. You know, in a perfect world, that kind of legislation will work, but Memphis is not a perfect world, and it's an impoverished community. And you bring some of these people who live in dire poverty, who don't take care, who aren't watching their kids. And that people live in luxury who don't watch their kids either. But they can't. What are you going to do? Throw them all in jail if they can't pay the $1,000 fine because their kid was out in the street beating up somebody? I mean, it's.
Because you could have a 12-year-old whose parents are totally negligent, but you could also have a 12-year-old who's staying with his grandparents who are working 2 jobs or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and they're just not around, like you might like them to be. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll go ahead and find your final word on that.
So, sure, this is not new. In my era of growing up, you break it, you buy it. That was finding the parents, right? When you went into the store, if you picked up something and dropped it, your mom got in trouble. So this law is designed to engage parents in parenting and preventative measures to say, if you do this, I'm going to be in trouble, so I'm not going to allow it. The only problems I do see with it is that obviously it's going to be punitive for some people who can't afford it, and that will be an inequitable system. And then we do find that there have been small instances where some police departments have dealt with kids different because I know your mom, I know your dad, so I'm not going to take you to juvenile court, or I'm not going to write this up. And so when we can see equal application of the law across all boundaries, I think it's a good thing.
Good point there. Let's talk about school vouchers. We're hearing that the pet project of Governor Bill Lee, he wanting to expand it statewide, is running out of time, was the quote of one anonymous Republican who says there are a lot of people who will be voting on this who are still not convinced it's the right way to go. One of the roadblocks being that they feel there needs to be a way of people who receive the aid, receive these scholarships, be tested by the state on a regular basis to see if our tax dollars, which are being used to fund these private tuitions, whether they're learning what they're supposed to be learning. What are you hearing about the future of this legislation, Susan, and how deep a trouble is it in?
Well, I'm hearing that the leadership thinks that they have enough time to put it together and get it to the governor's desk. And I'm also hearing that the members of the legislature say, and it's not going anywhere this year. So I think what has happened to Governor Lee and the vouchers is that he didn't count on the blowback that he's getting from these smaller communities, the rural areas, that maybe they have a church school there, a private church school, but most of their kids are in public education. They want money for their public schools. They don't want to give it away to the big communities like us. So I think that Governor Lee has a lot more lobbying himself to do with the smaller communities if he has any hope for next year.
Okay, I'm running out of time, but Otis, I want you to weigh in on this there's couple of pieces of legislation that are getting a lot of heat because of the secrecy that they are shrouded in. One is this huge 1.6 billion is the working number franchise tax break that will be given to businesses, and nobody wants to name which businesses they are that would benefit from the tax break. The other is the Super Bowl records bill, a bill that the public would not know until years later how much money was spent trying to bring the NFL Super Bowl to Nashville. People wanted transparency. I thought they knew that.
Well, they say it when it benefits them, because they always talk about transparency on some things that they're mad about. But in this case, we're talking about millions and even billions of dollars that a lot of rich people and rich corporations will be taking advantage of, and all of a sudden they don't want to tell us what's going on here. It's again another example of the height of hypocrisy here, and the public just has to insist that we have some openness. Let me say one very quick thing about vouchers, and that is this is a major test for Governor Lee's leadership, but this is an election year, and a lot of these lawmakers are not willing to do this in an election year when every House seat is up and half of the Senate seats are up.
$144 million for 20,000 students. The state doesn't have an answer for education. We just shut down one district that the state tried to say was the answer. And so the state cannot run education in districts and across the state with something out of Nashville. They don't have the answer for it. It needs to be left to the municipalities, and we need to fund them equitably so that they can do a good job.
And when we're talking about secrecy in Nashville, don't forget that the Sunshine Law does not apply to the state. It only applies to the municipalities.
That works out well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For them, anyway.
Works out well for them.
Well, regarding vouchers, one thing that's interesting in all of this is how it barely squeaked through the first time.
Right.
And there are FBI investigations about how it squeaked through the first time. You'd think they would want to make sure their T's were crossed and I's were dotted in getting it through this time.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. All right, we're going to come back and talk about the new superintendent for Memphis Shelby County Schools. She's making waves already in a moment.